Hello everyone, I'm your host and welcome back to the channel. Have you ever heard the unusual claim, often found buried in historical footnotes, that during early British voyages, sailors traded simple items like metal nails for certain intimate favors? Is this a wild exaggeration or a dark truth of colonial history? Today, we're going to uncover the real story of Tahiti and find out what really happened. This topic might sound sensational, but behind it lies a complex world of cultural clash, economic disparity, and power imbalance. So stay with me, because we're about to dive deep into where this claim came from, what it truly means, and how modern historians make sense of it all. Let's set the scene. We're in the late 18th and early 19th centuries. European explorers, traders, and whalers are making their way across the vast Pacific Ocean, encountering islands that had been isolated for millennia. Places like Tahiti became focal points of this first contact. Imagine the scene. Massive wooden ships appearing on the horizon, met by islanders in outrigger canoes. The initial interactions were a mix of genuine curiosity, deep misunderstanding, and a stark, uneven power dynamic. The Europeans arrived with technologies and materials completely foreign to the Pacific Islands. They brought items we now consider mundane, simple iron nails, metal tools like axes and knives, and even mirrors. But in societies where metal was virtually non-existent, these objects weren't just novelties, they were revolutionary. They could transform how you built a home, carved a canoe, or crafted a weapon. A single nail could be more valuable than anything a person owned. This brings us to the core of the claim. Some historical accounts, particularly entries in sailors, journals and logs, as well as sensationalized travelogues published back in Europe, mention that British sailors traded these nails and other small metal items in exchange for personal or intimate favors from local Tahitian women. Now, where did this idea come from? It's not a simple one-sided story. The claim likely originates from a combination of two main sources. First, a profound European misunderstanding of Tahitian social customs and their traditional systems of hospitality and exchange. And second, in some instances, the grim reality of colonial sexual exploitation, which was unfortunately common during this era. So, why were nails so important? To understand the value proposition here, you have to completely erase our modern concept of cost. In the Pacific Islands, there were no native sources of smelted metal. An iron nail wasn't just a fastener. It could be repurposed into a fishhook, an oar for piercing, a carving tool, or a weapon's point. So, yes, a small metal object could be considered immensely valuable. They were viewing a complex cultural exchange through a very narrow, transactional, and often biased European viewpoint. The other was a local community trying to navigate this sudden and disruptive intrusion. While some exchanges may have been transactional and mutually agreed upon within the context of Tahitian customs, others undoubtedly involved the misuse of power. They examine official ship logs, but also the private journals of officers and crew. And most importantly, they try to incorporate the local oral traditions and cultural knowledge that have been passed down through generations. The consensus is that it must be approached with extreme caution and context. No single source can be taken at face value. A sailor's travelogue isn't an objective ethnographic report. It's a subjective story, often written to entertain an audience back home or to portray the author as an adventurous hero. Missionaries, on the other hand, were often horrified by Tahitian traditions regarding relationships and sexuality, and they frequently misinterpreted practices through their own rigid moral framework. The best historical practice is to compare all these conflicting sources and, crucially, to give significant weight to Tahitian cultural perspectives. By understanding their traditions of hospitality, gift-giving, and social relationships, we can see how easily these could have been misinterpreted, willfully exploited by outsiders. Ultimately, what does this story really tell us? Whether the tale of trading nails for favors is entirely true, a gross exaggeration, or a mix of both, it's a powerful lesson. First, it shows us that the value of anything a nail, a piece of cloth, a service is completely dependent on cultural context. What is worthless in one society can be priceless in another. Second, and more importantly, it serves as a stark case study of the complex social and power dynamics that defined early colonial encounters. These weren't simple, romantic adventures. They were messy, complicated interactions fraught with misunderstanding, inequality, and often exploitation. Stories like this shouldn't be treated as historical gossip. They should be studied critically and responsibly as they reveal uncomfortable but essential truths about our shared global history. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. It's a complicated topic, and I appreciate you sticking with it. If you found this interesting and want to learn more about the hidden stories from our past, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.